This conference will now be recorded.
We have one addition under, Kim is going to fill us in on the finances herself. So it'll be under number 4. There's Dave. And that's the only change.
Is there a motion to approve the addition to the agenda?
It is Kim, but I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve, yeah, agenda.
Oh, okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes from July 19th.
The only thing I noticed is in number B, KAAL, I think Zeba to gauge interest instead of guard interest. With that change, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'll abstain since I wasn't here.
Yep, I'll abstain as well.
Did you get both of those, Miranda? Bob?
Yeah.
Yep.
Abstain, yep.
I know you've been just dying for this conversation. In the interest of making, I work with stuff every day, so I think in it, and I probably don't always get when people don't get it, so I'm just gonna put that disclaimer out there. If I look at your funny, it's not that I have anything other than I have to reprocess it. But I wanted to give you a little overview of your funds that you're responsible for. You have, I think, did you include the cash sheet?
Oh, yeah, it's,
That one, that one.
it's in the
There you
packet.
go. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so I can give you a cash sheet every month with the funds that you are technically in charge of. And when you look at the back, the total, that is your total of current, like cash equivalents that you currently own in your fund. And pretty much that is your fund balance. Kind of like at home, your checking account balance or your savings account, or the sum of all of those. The sum of your investment accounts, your checking account.
The 896 you're referring to?
Yep. And so I'm going to go over a little bit about your funds and what you really have and what's available to you, and tell you a little bit about the history of them, because sometimes it gets lost because it's been a long time. So Fund 206 was established when the industrial park was established across the highway. And the money that remains in Fund 206 is actually money that's residual from the sale of the lots there. There's also some lots on inventory in there that's held in the balance sheet, but that doesn't show up as a cash asset for you. That's money you have the ability to deal with what you will as far as expanding a business park or doing what you would see fit. Council could discuss with you maybe some other options that you could do, but it's definitely there for economic.
How much is allotted to that particular account?
Excuse me?
How much of that asset is allotted to that?
That's kind of, what you can do with this asset, what you want. I mean,
Okay,
like if you
but
want,
the one that's not on here, you said?
I'm just saying the land. If you, there's additional land for sale, so if you want to sell the additional lots or use them for economic development, that would be, that you guys are in control of that.
Sorry, I misunderstood that. No, that makes sense.
Do you know what the amount of the balance sheet is?
I do not know the value of the lot. I can't remember what the square footage of the lot cost is. I'd have to look.
No big deal.
Okay.
Thanks.
The revolving loan fund was begun way before I got back in here, probably in the 90s or late 80s, and that was money given by the state of Minnesota to cities so they could go out and spur loan opportunities for businesses, low interest rate loans for businesses. That money is currently monitored by the state. Every year we have to report on what we do, who we gave it out to, all that stuff. We've given it out to a bunch of things. And when I first started, custom iron had a big portion of it. Then we had loans out with the new Chrysler dealership. They had a large substantial piece of it for a long time. That was paid back upon the sale of that to, is it Eda? Yeah, that was paid back then. So right now we don't have any loans in this account. So your current account balance for that right there, right now you've got $159,000 that's sitting there that is not being used. But that fund specifically has some strictures on it by the state, which Kurt would have to explore. That's through the Department of Economic Development within the state. So your next fund, factoid fund, is the two abatement funds, which are the vet clinic abatement and the Chrysler Jeep abatement. The vet clinic abatement, when the vet clinic came in, all the money was gone because the Chrysler dealership got the loan that Steve took. There was no money available. So the EDA at that time decided that they had enough in their fund balance. They had gotten more revenue in than they had expended over a period of years. So they took that fund balance and they gave the vet clinic $70,000 with the understanding that over the course of 10 years, the vet clinic would pay their taxes and the city would take back the city portion and the county portion. So that has been being paid back. So you see that money coming in twice a year in July and December. That money immediately I take and I put over into the EDA fund balance, and that's coming back. And you for that $70,000 that you put out a few years ago. And that's a 10-year term. I can't remember the exact day of the term, but I think we've got about 6 or 7 years left in that one. Same with the Chrysler. The Chrysler one actually does that. The EDA gets an admin fee for that. I believe it's 10%, and the balance of what they pay in goes back to them. And that was an arrangement made up through the county. And that's just the city portion, because when they switched ownership, when Mr. Johnson sold it, the county was not interested in continuing the abatement. So it's just the city portion of the abatement in there. Okay.
When you say that money goes back into our fund,
Into the EDA fund, the Fund 403.
which one is that?
That's Fund 403. Yep.
Okay, I see.
And you'll, actually, some of these transfers I haven't done until August, so you're not going to see it all reflected in the cash balancing, but it's kind of a shifting around more.
Mhm.
Fund 403 is your EDA fund. That's your
Can I-
checkbook. Yep,
Sorry to
absolutely.
interrupt.
Yep.
So back on 263,
Mhm.
the fact that that loan has been paid back,
He took a loan and he
Got
had an abatement.
abatement,
He had
both.
both, yes.
thank you.
Yep, thank you for clarifying that. So your EDA fund, that's your day-to-day operating fund. That's what you're paying in, you're paying out. Within that fund, you take in, and I have it on your handy dandy sheet, most of your expenditure codes. You take in your tax abatements, which is the one from the vet clinic. You get TIF administration, you get abatement administration, you get transfers in. Now the transfer in, when we're gonna look at that, when we look at your budget, that is actually your levied tax amount, what we levy to the citizens of Zumbrota and the businesses of Zumbrota to pay for the EDA. It's a direct dollar for dollar. It increases or decreases your property taxes depending on what you, or increases, it directly affects your property taxes. All right, the next one that you'll see, the next fund is Fund 404. That's the EDA revolving loan fund. That fund does not have the strictures on it that Fund 250 has. I believe, and I don't know I've never been the one holding all the rules for the EDA funds, so I'm kind of speaking out of hearsay, I guess. I think there's a little more leeway you have with that fund to do some things as far as structuring loans or forgivable things. That's kind of more up to you guys what you do. One thing I do know about the state of Minnesota, while we have funds in these loan funds that are not being used, they're not going to give us more money. Because why would you give more money when you've already got money in the funds? So one way we could increase that and build that back is if we could get more businesses to take low or no interest rate loans. No interest rate wouldn't make us money, but we'd still be getting more money out into the community to do the properties. Unfortunately, most businesses, and I understand why, would prefer to have a grant. I mean, who wouldn't? Yeah.
And that money comes back into our 403.
Right. It comes right back into 404. So
So we
it
just
goes
keep
out,
loaning
it comes
it.
back.
Yep.
Yep, it's a circle. Yep. All right, so then we go to, I'm standing over Kurt's, the 421. Now this is the infamous Rochester sales tax grant. That's on your balance sheet more simply because you have the forgivable loan portion in there. The cash balances that you see in there, the 196, it's really not yours to spend. And that is because when the council first got the money for the Rochester sales tax, they set up they called it a three-legged stool. They gave money to the State Theater for renovation. They gave $100,000 forgivable grants for the local businesses. And then they kept the remainder for an anticipated business park or industrial park expansion. That remained, all the money that you guys had for the grant portion is gone unless you have some of the businesses sell and then they have to pay back a certain percentage of their loan or that grant that they had. So like Hub just sold not that long ago, they had to pay back like $8,800. That $8,800 went back in there. That went to pay for the speakers downtown. So you see the money on there because you have money on the balance sheet, but you don't really have the money to spend. I can take it off if you don't want to see it on there. It's kind of totally up to you guys. But it's kind of nice to have it on there.
So that $208,000,
Yep, not yours,
not ours.
not yours. That was originally 300 and I can't remember, almost 400,000 that we got from them.
Not ours to even use for the business park.
Yes, for that, if you were going to do a business park, but the council could as well decide to make some changes in the structure to that, because that was a council decision.
Because yeah, I was thinking, I knew we couldn't use it
No.
for grants, but I was thinking we still had.
You still have money, if you decided to build something, but you'd have to have council approval. You could definitely make presentations to the council on it, and they could.
Yeah, if we wanted, if we had wanted to buy more land,
Absolutely, that's something
we'd
they
come
could
to
look at.
council with that. request.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the last two are the TIF funds. We have two TIFs right now, tax increment financing funds. And I know you guys know the drill, but I'll just say it for effect. We start out with a piece of land that's either undeveloped or blighted. It has a lower tax value. We get a project that comes in that's going to increase the tax value. The difference between what we start at and what it is when it's done, that's captured, the tax increment financing. And depending on how they structure it, some of it goes back to the EDA, some of it goes back to the developer. Sometimes it can be used for some kind of bonding purpose. There's all kinds of rules. It's a very shapeshifter kind of animal, and that's why we always get legal assistance doing this, because otherwise it just doesn't go. So we got our TIF, Midwest Livestock, I believe is in their third year of payment. We will always, you can see that there's like $15,000 and $16,000 in there we haven't paid out. So 10% of each of these are going to go back to the EDA and admin fees. The remainder is going to go back to the developers. So next month, you're going to see a zero, or very close to zero.
Do you remember how long both of these?
I believe Midwest, I believe, is 10 years, and I think it's on year 3. The Bartman is 25. It's the absolute max it can be. So that's the first year, so there's 24 years left on that. And that increment, it's anticipated to be quite a bit more, but that's just what was built, what they had built in the tax base for that year. We always fall behind. We follow behind the year we're at.
So does the EDA have a balance sheet then as well where that shows up, that TIF, or it's just kind of an off balance sheet?
It's an off balance sheet, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so then we go.
Because was like,
I want to say that the cost for Kelly Bartman, the cost calculated back, I just was looking at it today, it was like 2-point-some million. Yeah. I cannot remember Midwest Livestock. I want to say it was like 265,000, something like that.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So now if you look at your budget worksheet, we'll just go, most of these, the one that you're probably most interested in, and the other ones are kind of depending on who pays and what comes back. But the one you're going to be interested in is on page 2, which is the EDA fund. If you look on that, first one is tax abatement. I just won the property taxes and kind of estimate what's going to happen with this. That's a vet clinic. That's coming in. The festival revenues are still on there. You don't have that anymore, so it's gone. So like in the last couple of years, you've noticed your budget in a sense has shrunk, but that's because those two numbers always offset each other. So once the expense went away and the revenue went away, it just made the budget smaller. One thing I want you to know is that sometimes in some governments, there's this fear that if you don't spend all your money that you've been budgeted, we're going to take it away. No, it's just like at your house. I'm budgeting for a $600 car repair. It only comes in at $500. I take that extra $100 and I keep it in the balance in my checkbook. That's exactly what happens here. And that is what allowed you in the past to go back and give that $70,000 loan to the vet clinic. If you hadn't put money, had been ahead, spent less than you were allotted, you wouldn't have had that money to go ahead and loan to them. Interest earnings, we invest in, we're limited to what we can invest in. We're a money market CD interest rates. Our interest, you're going to see our interest rates perform a lot better because their rates are up, as we all know. The transfers in, that is what we levy for you. That comes right from the general fund. The first of the year, you get the whole shoot and match. So you will see it went down about $3,000. And what's kind of offsetting that is you had an increase in TIF admin. And I'm always trying to play a balancing act because we're all coming out of the same pocket here. So I'm always trying to find a way where if revenues go up in one that's directly affecting the levy, I try and move it around someplace else because we've always got places to put it. Then we just go down the expenses, and I kept you pretty similar. I think that the council's philosophy right now, from how I understand it, and Brian can maybe better address it, the council's philosophy is we do not want huge spikes and dips in the levy. We would rather have a steady levy increase, because when we look at overall in the levy, we increase by a certain percentage all the time. You can average it out and it's going to be, what, 6.5%, pretty much. That's what the council is really looking at, just a steady levy increase. Things can happen that influence that. Obviously, crises can happen, something can blow up, something has to be fixed that we were not anticipating. But we try our best to manage those things. We've done a lot of capital planning in the last year to try and lay everything out that we can think of. And of course, we know something's still going to happen, but we're trying to be able to shift things around if something does. If you guys are anticipating that you're going to have a large project or something you're really passionate about, or you have a goal that you're working on, the best way to approach the council with that is to kind of lay it out, figure out how much you're going to need, and let them build for it. You know, that money you don't spend will stay in your balance. It's not going to go anywhere. I look back for some of our funds, I've done it for you guys sometimes too, and I'll look back 5 years. How much have they spent in this line item? Hey, we want to spend another $4,000 somewhere else. Yeah, but you know what? You did great. You way underspent in these areas for the last 3 years. It's in the balance. We can take that balance for you. And you can also decide, because you're the EDA, you can decide, you know what? I don't want to spend here. I'd rather spend more here. That's totally up to you. But what I want you to do, I just kept everything pretty much a 3% increase, because that's what our capital plan is talking about, and keeping revenues fairly steady. So that is pretty much what you'll see in the rest. The EDAR revolving loan account, which is Fund 404 on page 3, you have 2 loans out in there right now. You have one to the floral shop. They have a building loan. They did improvements there. And there's also one in the building that's Ameriprise is in. So those 2 loans are out. Grand total of about 26 grand. Or don't, excuse me, 24 grand, 25 grand. And that's on your principal outstanding balance sheet there. And that is kind of what I got for you. So now you can just take that home and read it later.
The thing, let me just clarify, on promotional items, 'cause
Yes.
that's usually where we end up having to figure out, do we have any money or don't?
Exactly.
So here it says 7,000 with 4,400 used. So that would say we got 3,600 still left in
I
23
will
budget.
say there's a little bit less than that because we've been mailing those visitors guides. So there's probably a few $100s less than that.
For me, that part of it, the 403 fund, would be very helpful to go with this each month.
Okay.
Because then
Okay.
we wouldn't be, especially when we don't.
Sure.
We don't want you to.
So
be
you'd like to
every
see
month.
the expenses and revenues for the 403 fund monthly?
That way we know
That way we know if
Absolutely.
there's
how
money,
much we can.
And that's your fund that is going to have the most
I feel like
flux.
most
those are the-
activity in
Yeah,
it too. Right?
those are the questions we always are asking somebody. Well, how much
Would
is
you
in there?
prefer it to be an itemized part, or would you prefer it to be just a lump sum? Because I can itemize if you so choose.
I think it's getting itemized here well
Yep.
enough
Okay,
that we just need to know what
Okay,
it is compared to
perfect.
budget.
I'll just put that in my to-do monthly then.
Thank you.
Yep,
Yeah, the bold is what we have budgeted and the
yep,
non-bold is what
Yep.
we've spent.
yep. And we're trying to get all our numbers in a row because we have to submit the levy to the county. We were a little delayed this year in budgeting, my fault, but we were trying to understand that new tool. And we got it. It was a little more complex and took a lot of time within staff to kind of find the workings on it. Now that we've got it, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And again, if you have projects you want to work for with an ultimate goal of a certain dollar amount, we're going to be able to pop that in there and move things around, which is exciting.
Are there any questions on the monthly financial reports or any more questions for Kim?
I'll make a motion, we approve the monthly financial report for ending July 31st.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next. No public hearings, old business, KAAL presentation.
So
You
we don't
must be
have to
Brandon.
approve the budget yet.
You have the floor, Brandon.
The 24 budget. Probably gets approved in September's meeting, is that right?
I assume so.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just asking about the budget, 24 budget. We don't have to approve the EDA budget until September, correct? Yep. One more before. Thank you.
So I'll bring it next. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Brandon McElroy. I'm with KAL TV, ABC6 News down in Rochester. And Kurt and I have been talking a little bit. I stopped by City Hall a couple months ago, and I talked to some businesses in town, and an idea kind of came to me when, let me start over. I have been with the station for about 16 years. I previously did commercial production for the TV station. Then I was a creative services director for about 10 years. So in that time, we did what we called participating campaigns. And that's when I spoke to Kurt and I said, hey, we've had cities like Hayfield, Casson, Stewartville, other cities that have done these participating campaigns where the city or economic development agency buys half of the commercial, and then other businesses in the community buy the other half of the commercial, so they can participate in this marketing campaign. And that's kind of how the conversation started. So I'll get into a little bit more details of that, but I just want to let you guys know a little bit more about our station, who we are, who our viewers are, and then also kind of the media usage of TV broadcast that is happening right now. There's really good information and data from from a company called GFK. They've been around for almost 100 years, and they do marketing decision processes that really focus in on how people ingest their media. So I'll get into my presentation here. Let's see if this is up there. Oh, I see it there. All right.
Can you get to the other side?
Okay. This is very touchy. All right. There we go. So a little bit about who we are as a TV station. We are KAL. Historically, for the last 70 years, we were based out of Austin, Minnesota. So for the region, they think of us as that Austin station. But a lot has changed in the last 15 years. Rochester has grown with DMC, and business has grown, and that's where the growth in business and just the community growth has been in our region. So as a for-profit business, we saw the advancement of Rochester, so we made the move to Rochester to put our services more centered there than in Austin and Albert Lee. And KIMT also made a similar move from Mason City up to Rochester. So we're now kind of considered a normal TV market, whereas before we were called a hyphenated market because each station had their own section of the market that they kind of stayed with. So we've become more of a traditional TV market where we're all kind of vying for the same viewers. But the viewership has kind of hung back and stayed with their, legacy stations. So about 30% of our audience still comes from Moore and Freeborn County. 40% comes from Homestead County, and then the rest comes from rural Iowa and rural Minnesota. So that's kind of the makeup of our audience. Right now, our team has gotten a big boost with Randy Brock and Robin Wolfram coming back on TV. So we're seeing a really big ratings boost from those known entities and known people, known personalities on our airwaves. Let's see if I can make this just go. Okay. Media usage. So this is based on that study from GFK, and this was for all week, so Monday through Sunday, 4 a.m. to 2 a.m. in persons 18 plus. And this is the time spent, if they took all that week and they took averages and they said, okay, if you're gonna be watching your media, if we're gonna say this is a 24-hour day, this is how much time is spent with each medium per day. So TV, broadcast, and cable, 5.5 hours per day watching TV. Now that's cable TV, that's broadcast TV, that's all together. Broadcast TV, which local stations are, was 3.5 hours. Next one down is cable TV, almost 2 hours. Streaming with ads, so that's the Hulus and the Peacocks and the stuff that is ad driven. People are watching about 1 hour and 25 minutes a day. Social media, people are on social media for about 1 hour a day. And you can kind of go down the list and see where people are spending a lot of their time. Radio used to be number 2. They've fallen quite a bit since the pandemic, and people's media uses changed then. And a lot of radio went to streaming audio as well. So, the Spotifys and the Pandoras and the Amazon Music, stuff that doesn't have ads, but, Spotify does. But some of those don't have ads. So they really break it down into how the media usage is for a lot of different medias out there. And, a lot of people think, people don't watch TV anymore. I don't watch TV anymore, but it's just a different pathway to watch TV. So if you're watching Hulu Live, that's basically cable. If you're watching YouTube TV, that's basically cable. It's just a different medium of a delivery service to get that content to you. So you may be a streamer, but you are still paying kind of that cable pricing and cable package to get those channels and content. Oop, one too far. This is kind of a breakdown of cable in the market. So cable is about 25.5% of how people ingest their media. ADS is Dish, DirecTV, that kind of stuff. And when we break out cable, Charter Spectrum has 19.6% of that 25. And then it's kind of spaced out between Mediacom, Ace, Telecom, all the kind of local broadcast communication. OTA is over the air, so those are people that are still using the bunny ears and the digital analog signal to get TV for free. And then EBO is broadband only homes, so that's your streaming audience. Those are the people that are using Hulu and YouTube TV and that type of stuff. The nice thing about broadcast is we are on all of these services. Channel 6 is on Dish, Direct, it's on Spectrum, we're obviously over the air, and we stream through Hulu Live and YouTube TV and a lot of other sources. So the nice thing, when ads are placed on our station, they're placed here too, because we're on all these platforms as well. Marketing the digital world. Digital is a way of reaching a younger audience. That's how I speak to my clients when I'm talking about digital. Typically, TV reaches audience of 45 plus. So this bell curve would be, pushed, further out for the age group for TV. But as you can see with our online usage, a lot of that, usage is the 25 to 54 age range. So that's a great way of, if you're doing TV, you're reaching kind of the more aged audience, that more experienced audience that is kind of still watching in their routine. To reach a younger audience, I suggest doing our digital. So in March of 2023, which I like March because it's not a big storm season. It's not, we don't get big snowstorms, hopefully. We don't get, big rainstorms. So this is kind of a good litmus test for just kind of a standard digital month for our platforms. Our app had 1 million page views, and our kltv.com had 1.8 million page views in March. So that is, 2.8 million page views on our platforms, and it's just a great way of connecting your brand with the audience that you're trying to reach. And we can geolocate this as well, so we can say, if you place ads on our website or our app, we can say, okay, we only want people in Zumbrota or Rochester to see these. So we can really kind of hone it down and say, we only want certain people to see these ads, at least by city. So this is a great opportunity for video and display ads. And if video is kind of those pre-roll ads that you see before like a news story, you watch a news story and the pre-roll ad comes out before, that's called a pre-roll ad. Then there's display ads, and those are kind of the banner ads that are on the top and sides. They're kind of more static ads. And there's a lot of different benefits and throwbacks to kind of to each of those platforms and delivery methods. The biggest one that I see get the most response is our app open. So when you open our app, there's an ad before you get to our content, and we have great click-through rates that are quadruple the national average. So that's a great platform. Okay, let me just make sure. Okay, so into the participating campaign. So with this campaign, what we're offering Zumbrota and the business community here in Zumbrota is a way of marketing yourselves together. So we want to get Zumbrota on the map, so it's not just a drive-through community. They're not just stopping at Zumbrota Ford. We want them to explore in the community. So a good way of doing that is for the city to showcase itself with the first 15 seconds of the commercial, and then businesses can add on, so they each have their own message for the last 15 seconds. So for each business that signs on, you get 25 commercials. And so we would be giving 25 commercials to each business, and then so the city would get those 25 commercials as well. So if we sign on 4 businesses in 1 month, that would be 100 commercials, right? Because there would be 4 different businesses getting 25 commercials, and you guys would have the first 15 seconds of that every time. You guys would be getting a deal because you get a flat rate. We're not charging you per business. It is a flat rate of $1,000. We actually took it down since the last time we met. So it's $1,000 for a 6-month advertising campaign. And if we sign on more businesses, so that would be 2 businesses to kind of get you guys to break even, So if we were to sign on 4 businesses, you'd be getting that 100 spots, but you would still be paying $1,000. If we sign on 6 businesses, still $1,000, but you'd be getting 150 spots. So there's great value at kind of getting in as our sponsor, our main sponsor at that dollar amount, because each business, they invest $500 a month, but they get their 25 commercials. They could spend, $1,000 a month and get extra commercials. So that's up to the business and how they want to handle it. But that's kind of how the participating campaign would work. And then additionally, we would add any of the businesses in the host community on the Eat, Play, Shop webpage that we're starting. This is going to be a webpage that highlights local businesses and cities on our website. And we're going to start promoting that soon. So once we get that page up and going, our participating partners would be a part of that webpage. There we go. Grant opportunity. Right now, there's a recovery grant program through Explore Minnesota just for this need. It's for marketing your community to the region, right? And you can use it in a lot of different ways: TV, radio, print. You know, there's a lot of different ways that you can use this. I highly suggest you guys looking into this opportunity because it's free money to help you get your message out to the community. And it did open July 12th, so there's still time to get out there and get in on the grant opportunity. So that's what I have for you. Do you guys have any questions that I can answer?
What businesses did you talk to in Zumbrota? Can you say?
I went down Main Street, so it was Dwell, it was, I'm sorry, this was a couple months ago, but Phenomenal Women, the shoe store, I mean, basically all the boutiques I went through and talked to them, and a lot of them were interested. They didn't have big budgets, so I think a participating campaign like this would help, you know, entice them to step forward and say, yes, I think we can afford that. And that's, again, that's kind of the benefit of a campaign like this is we're partnering to make it more affordable for both entities. And I wanted to get kind of your buy-in before it went too far with the businesses, because I can go to the businesses and try and sell them commercials and spots just by themselves. But it's great when we can partner together and really help each other out and really get, you know, the community as a whole, you know, moving forward. And the power of TV is really powerful. I mean, look what Zumbrota Ford has done since starting on TV. You know, about 15 years ago, he was just an average car dealer, and he started TV advertising and really pushing it. And now he's, you know, one of the biggest car dealers in the region. And it's because he's consistently putting that message out there. It might be a little goofy at some time, but you know, it's that consistent message and that perceived value from the viewers that they have when they see a consistent message.
So it's $1,000 per month for 6 months. So our investment would be $6,000.
Yes.
Would we be getting the exact same commercial every time, or would you be developing multiple different commercials?
It would be one commercial for 6 months. If you sign on again for another 6 months, it would be another commercial. And that would just be your 15-second proportion of that.
Okay.
And same with the businesses. They sign on for 6 months, they get one 15-second commercial that is attached to yours. And then if they sign on again for another 6 months, they get to freshen it up. If we wanted to freshen it up sooner, there are, you know, production costs. You know, we could $150 would, you know, we could make a new spot for you. So it's very affordable to make a new spot, but we lump it in with the campaign and not have to charge you right away.
So your creative services department will help us prepare that 15-second spot?
Yes.
With the $1,000 a month?
Yes. You tell us what you want to focus on, the you know, kind of give us bullet points on the areas that you want attention paid, then we'll generate the script, and we would do that for the businesses that sign on as well.
Do you have any examples of a different community that you've done?
I don't anymore. It was before we started putting stuff on YouTube, and I don't have access to those commercials anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, it was basically, here's Hayfield. Hayfield was special because they really honed in on building. They were building new developments, so they wanted people to move to Hayfield and, you know, buy those plots of land. And it worked really well for them, so well that they didn't want to continue doing it because they sold all their plots of land. So, but it was come to Hayfield, we got great parks, we got this golf course, we got a bowling alley, you know, come and have fun and enjoy the community. And then the bank bought in, the bowling alley bought in, auto guy bought in. So yeah, we had like 4 or 5 different businesses that bought in and, you know, try to benefit from that city, investing in marketing.
The city's contribution, is that contingent on having some businesses involved?
I guess it's not, it kind of is contingent, just as long as we get at least one or two, that way that second 15 seconds is filled. If we don't get any businesses and you just want to do $1,000 commercial campaign, you can do that. If you just want to be standalone 30 seconds for Zumbrota, we can do that too.
So if a business was to come to you and just wanted to advertise without this program, how does it compare in cost?
It depends. It depends on a lot of things. I mean, there's all sorts of packages, like NFL packages and college football packages and, news packages, news sponsorships. We have a thing going on right now for news sponsorship where clients can get their logos on our news crawl in every single one of our newscasts. And that's $750 a month. Plus you get digital ads on our website. You get, I think it's 15 rotating spots on TV as well. So you kind of get all of it, and for a really great price, $750. There are businesses that spend $2,500 to $3,000 a month without blinking an eye, and they're in our newscasts, they're in our daytime, they're in our sports, they kind of go all in with the content. They more pick and choose the content and programs that they want to be in. And that's also my job, is to find the programs that fit the audience we're trying to reach. So that would be another kind of layer of how we think about this, is who you want to speak to. What is the audience that you're trying to do? Kind of like Hayfield, they wanted to sell those plots of land. So that was kind of their main focus, is we want to highlight the community for that. And that would be the question that, you guys would have to discuss, is what is your goal for this campaign? Is it to get, more tourists, just more people coming into the community? Or is it to get more people moving into the community? Is it more businesses moving into the community? You kind of have to figure out what you want to get out of this. And it's my job to help you get that.
So just asking a question as far as city versus business, because I'm also a business owner. So does the city 15 seconds always run first? Are we going to have, because like I'm probably your worst customer, because I close all the ads. Close them. I just want to see what I'm reading. So how do we interest businesses to be the back half of a 30-second ad?
Sure.
Because really, if the city doesn't grab their attention, people aren't going to watch it for the whole 30 seconds.
And it's negotiable. I mean, if the city is willing to, say, let's put the businesses first. But in my experience, telling a story is important. So kind of the city is, we're telling that story of Zumbrota. And then that transition is, here's a business. Here's one of our stars that you want to come and see. So it's how you tell that story. And that can be, massaged in any way you want. And we could do bookends where the first 5 seconds or first 10 seconds is the city. Then there's the 15 seconds in the middle for the business. And then, 5 or 10 seconds at the end for the city as well, as kind of like that last call to action. So there's a lot of different ways that we can, manage the content and telling that story. So it's really based on, what you guys feel would work for your community. We want to help and, put together a campaign that you guys are, all behind.
And these ads would run what hours again?
These ads would run mainly probably in our newscasts daytime, and then I would try and get them into any kind of primetime programs and sports that I have open availability. That's kind of my job, is to find what programs, again, that would work to reach the audience that you're trying to get. So I can't really say without knowing, the target market that we're trying to reach, because it really changes. If we're going for, women 50 plus, then I'd say we have a lifestyle package that you get in Live with Kelly. We have Twin Cities Live coming, programs like that, Kelly Clarkson, things like that would they work really well for, women 50 plus. And, other programs, if you're trying to reach men, sports, if you're trying to reach families, we have high school sports. So, and news is kind of that bucket that everybody jumps into. That's what people watch TV for. People watch TV for live sports and live news. Those are really the programs that people are watching TV with. Otherwise, like primetime programs, they're not watching, Grey's Anatomy live on the air. They're watching it on Hulu the next day or whenever they have time to watch, right? So it's really those programs that are live happening now that are more interesting for viewers to watch. Dancing with the Stars so they can vote, stuff like that.
You got your ABC News, your ABC stuff down.
Yeah.
So tell me, I have Dish Network. How would I watch these ads?
Dish Network, you watch ABC 6 News, Channel 6.
But I only have Channel 5.
Oh, you do? That's the market here? So
Yes.
again, now, we have to think about who you're trying to reach. Are you trying to reach people in your community? Or are you trying to reach people to come to your community?
Okay.
So that's something that I run into with advertisers a lot is, well, I don't watch TV. I don't listen to the radio. I don't, do these things, but a lot of people do. In our 6 o'clock newscast, there's 9,000 people watching every night. Every night. And that's 9,000 people. So one spot, you're reaching 9,000 people. That's pretty big numbers.
Any other questions?
All right.
So this, obviously we have to look at our numbers because there's not enough money budgeted for 2023 to do something like this. So like, what is the time frame? Like, how much time does it take to develop these commercials, or do you reach out to businesses?
Sure. So it really depends on how energized the businesses are to take part. Once we get everybody signed on, and that's going to be kind of the longest process, is getting people signed on and ready to go and get everything kind of packaged, sealed, right? Next comes the creative process. The creative process with this kind of project would probably be about 3 to 4 weeks. We say about 2 weeks for just a single commercial, but since we're doing, multiples, it'd probably be about 3 to 4 weeks. Personally, what I think, since we're, kind of wrapping up the summer right now, we could potentially shoot this fall and then start the campaign in spring. Because I don't like seeing winter footage. Winter footage is not the most enticing for people to come and engage in, so we could shoot this fall, kind of get some fall colors, some kind of movement on the streets, and then kind of put it in the can and hold it for the winter. The nice thing about winter, though, is that's when people are watching TV. That's when people are at home and they're watching TV. So we kind of have to weigh when you want to start it. But the video itself, I think, works better whether you're, putting the commercial on in the winter or in the spring. Fall footage is probably going to be the best. So it really depends on when you want to get started. We could start in January and go through, June, or we could kind of push it back and wait until, March, and then kind of do a March through, August.
So it obviously has to be the same time frame for every business.
Yes. Yes. And typically spring is a good time for businesses to advertise because it gets people that are getting ready to be out and about, after the long winter of, oh yeah, that looks cool. I want to go there. I want to check that out. So that's a good time to kind of start laying in the brand, laying in the idea that, Zumbrota is a place to be and the businesses here are something that you want to stop for.
Sure. I don't have any other questions.
All right. Well, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we, as a board, have any other discussion on this now, or do you?
Yeah, what is the likelihood or what is the cost that CETA would help us with writing that grant?
Actually, this grant meeting coming up in September. Yeah, we trade hours for our grant writers, so we can just do this for the other grants.
I would make the recommendation that we look into having CETA assist us with writing the 2024 recovery grant proposal. That would make our decision a lot easier. Sure. So.
What is the value of that grant? Do you know what the grant?
Yeah, I can look that up for you. It's based on the budget of the entity. So, I think it was anywhere. Keep doing that with my computer.
What was that specific grant called?
2024 recovery grant.
Tourism Recovery Grant Program.
Yeah.
Just like you said.
So, what's our operating budget? So it says if your operating budget is $99,999 or less, you can get up to $5,000.
Mhm.
Then it's a sliding scale, up to $5 million operating budget.
Thank you.
Does she have a grand total? I don't know that she has a grand total on here.
Starting with Kim to kind of get the budget.
You said how much?
Revenue.
99,000.
So 99.
I was gonna say, that's what we're at, right?
Is that our total budget or the promotional budget?
That's the 403 EDA
All
budget.
your operational stuff there, so.
Is that 89,000?
Is that what we're looking at, the total?
Organizations who are not required to request the maximum or below total budget, excuse me. Basically 100,000 or less, you can get up to $5,000. 100 to, goodness, 500 is 10. And it's a sliding scale up to 40,000 maximum.
September 5th.
Got something broken. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I guess for me, unless we have something as a city that we want to promote, that we're trying to achieve with this type of a program, I guess to me, it comes down to what businesses are going to participate, because you're kind of supporting the entire business community. If a few of them get involved, you're trying to promote some program. So I almost feel like the cart's ahead of the horse. I'd almost like to see if you can get businesses that are interested, and then it would make our decision a lot easier. I mean, if there's businesses that are not going to participate, no matter what we do, I don't know that we'd be interested in a 15-second commercial for 6 months.
We could even reach out to like the festival committee, see if they wanted something, obviously not for this year.
Yeah, my next step was to talk to Zima and the business group here. So it was.
Are you focusing on downtown, or are you looking at all the businesses?
All businesses. Everybody's welcome.
Must have some businesses that are already advertising.
Flagship and Zumbrota Ford, those are kind of the two main that advertise right now. And yeah, we would welcome anybody that would want to participate in this.
Zima's got a limited membership.
Scope, sure.
As far as total businesses.
Mm-hmm.
They could give you a good feel.
Yep. And like I said, I think the threshold is really to get 3 or 4 businesses And that's where you guys start seeing that real value of you're getting a lot of spots and your message is really getting pushed out there, so.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, we will move on to
Thank you.
new business.
Thanks.
Database for business information.
Yeah, so I've had conversations about, and we've spoken in here about getting a chamber of commerce, and it's not like you just snap a finger to chamber of commerce. But I think what I'm going to do, after doing the canvassing the city with the questionnaire, I think what I'm gonna do is canvass the city again, personally go up to them and get their contact information and make a database. Because like I said, through CETA, we get a lot of business information, like if you're interested in starting a business and so on, that I'd like to send out to the city. I send it to Ziva, which is fine, but when you look at all the businesses in Dakota, Ziva's is not a large number, it's a good number, don't get me wrong. But starting this database, when we have it, we'll have contact information, rather than just getting a card from them. And then I can, from there, from that point on, I think it'd be a good way to get the ball rolling in that situation, with getting business communicating. There's gonna be some that obviously don't be in contact with anything, but I think a majority of some of the business would be a part, would be interested in it. So I was just kind of a heads up, how we look towards the chamber in the future. If you got any advice or anything.
We in the city do not have a contact list for all the businesses in this city. That just blows me away.
Yeah, you've got that. don't
I've
you?
got a list of the businesses.
Yeah.
I don't have who runs the business.
Right.
Okay.
So I do have
The
all the
current
businesses
constitution.
listed.
We have quite a few of them, but not all of them.
And we have like our business directory on the website, but usually those are, no, I mean, we have like the generic phone number, but.
Yeah.
I mean, if people would rather
It
us
needs to be
get their cell phone, we
maintained,
don't have that.
updated,
So,
Because we, our marketing department wanted to see how many businesses we were already doing business with. So we requested a list. But it says it was pretty generic. And
it's just the name of the business.
just the name of the business, so we could go through and check off those types of things. But yeah, from a chamber perspective, we're acting like a chamber, all that other contact information would be very useful.
Yeah, I thought, not only for just chamber, but just for the city in general, to have that would be very beneficial with the growth of the city.
And you talked, I guess, to Rochester and Brentwood.
Yeah.
Have you visited the smaller towns?
I visited with Casson, Chamber. But the thing is with those, they've been around forever, and they kind of continuously, they've always been there.
Yeah.
And so when you ask them, how do you start in Byron as well? How do you start? Well, one of the first things is to get contact information, so. We'll get the ball rolling, I guess. Hopefully it'll lead to something, for a chamber, I can't guarantee anything. Please, sorry.
I think there'd be some interest out there, it's just.
Yeah.
Well, just you bringing the effort to go up and face to face with people to get the contact information. And if you're telling them that it's potentially going to lead to a chamber or something like that, something more organized, that might put the interest
So,
a little more excited.
I thought about I could sell their information.
Yeah.
Depending on something.
Can I get your email? I'm going to sell this to you. No, I'm not.
Your privacy notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a heads up. And so in September, we'll have to have the budget after it goes through the council. Is that right, Brian?
No, we'll have the budget.
Before it goes through the council.
The final preliminary budget, we'll bring it back one more time for formal approval before we approve it at the council. On September 21st.
I just have one other question. What is happening with the community garden? Do we know? Do we know what the original discussion was with that now that he is no longer?
So what's happening with it is, there was a group that were gonna take it over, and that group turned into basically one person. And she was having a very hard time keeping up with it. And so then there got to be a bunch of weeds, and then the park board directed me to send the police out to do an ordinance violation, and speaking with, Rachel is her name, speaking with her, she said, well, can I just have a little time to clean it up? I'm like, well, clean it up, yeah, and then I said, it's just a notification to clean it up, basically. So she cleaned a whole bunch of it up, but I don't know how to tell the police officers, you know, this is not okay and that's not okay, and because there's weeds in the corn. Well, do we go around and tell everybody they have to take weeds out of their corn in their gardens? Yes, it's a community garden, but it's never gonna be, at the point it's at now, it's never gonna be satisfactory for everybody.
Right.
But how do we issue a violation? So I haven't gone forward with that yet.
So I think my main concern is if we don't have somebody who is going to manage it and create that garden again to be used by the community, like at what point do we say, time to take it out?
Yeah, and I think, it came through EDA the first time?
Came through here,
didn't it? Yeah, because we were thinking it went through the park board, so we took it there, and they said, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, that should come back through here. That was the discussion was, you know, if you can't maintain it, then you can't do it, and it needs to go back to grass, and that's in the contract that they have to put it back to grass
That's what
themselves.
I was.
Well, the way I know we have an individual who wasn't even involved before, trying to keep it going, and it's not going well, and now she's gonna have to spend a bunch of money to put it back to grass, and so there's.
And the city will have to maintain it after.
The city will have to mow it anyway, yep, afterwards, and plow the sidewalk, which I was an advocate of, we go back to plowing the sidewalk ourselves anyway, even with the lease agreement. So she said she thought that the school was gonna be interested, the new ag teacher was very interested in doing something, but they're not really around in the summer, the kids are not, unless they have some kids that wanna come in and help out in the summer, so. What I'd like to see is give a little bit more time to come back and with a proposal that includes more people and a little bit more definite. Because it is a good thing for the community, and if we just bulldoze it down, and I gotta answer all those phone calls.
Do you suppose that Rachel could reach out to the local 4-H clubs and see if any one of those would be willing to adopt it?
Absolutely, yeah, or help, or be part of it, yeah. Yeah, so the plan was they were gonna have mulch in there to keep the weeds down, you know, they're gonna put fabric down, mulch down, so there's not all those weeds that they ended up with, and it kinda got away, because she was there by herself.
Well, and everything costs money, and we
Costs
know
money,
that, so.
and- Yeah, but then they've got a problem with water too, down there, they really don't have water unless they get it from the neighbor, and they may not be interested in providing water, so it's a tough thing, you know.
Maybe the DNR would allow us some pump to be dropped in the creek.
There you go, yeah, there's not much water in there.
No,
but-
especially this year.
Yeah, so it's kind of a work in progress, you know, it might just go away, depending on interest. But if it doesn't, then we'll nail it down quite a bit more and bring it back with a more ironclad lease agreement that somebody's gonna have to be willing to adhere to.
Okay.
And we're gonna have to be willing to enforce. Not that I'm not willing to enforce it, but, you know, kind of feel for, for the individual involved, so.
If there's nothing else, we can adjourn officially.